issues that we're going to discuss tonight are extremely important. In fact, I think they are the most important issues facing humanity. And I therefore also like to thank Professor Cafaro for turning out to defend his views, which, as we will see, go considerably beyond simply limiting immigration. Cafaro has written extensively on related subjects and has published a book, as John Andrews noted, as well as essays and other works in journals and so forth, advocating a string of views which go from the merely annoying to the catastrophic, including mandatory recycling, limitation on meat consumption, mandatory limits on the size of houses, limits on airplane travel, massive carbon taxes to increase the price of fuels, government limits on economic growth, limits on the amount of children that people can have, yes, limits on immigration, policies to depopulate both the United States and the world, advocating reducing the US population to 100 million people, reducing the world population to 2 billion people, okay, advocating the elimination of Judeo-Christian ethics and human rights. Okay, so these are an amazing set of views, but however, I must say is that they are quite consistent. They come from a consistent core. That is, he does have a very consistent philosophy, and so that while we must debate the proposition that has been advanced, we need to also examine the philosophy that is delivering it, because you're not just buying into a single proposition here, you're buying into a philosophy, okay? This is a rotten fruit from a rotten tree, and you've got to look beyond the fruit and look at the tree itself. But first, let's look at the proposition at hand. First chart. Okay, this graph here shows, okay, this is graphing world global GDP per capita from 1800 to today, graphed against global carbon use. Okay, that's what you're seeing here. So, okay, here we are. So, here's 1800. In today's dollars, global GDP per capita, $180 per year, 50 cents a day. This is the world depicted by Charles Dickens and Victor Hugo in their novels, of people starving to death in the streets of London and Paris, in the capitals of the world's leading countries. Okay? And what we're seeing here is, in secular terms, the greatest story ever told. It is the story of humanity's escape from this hopeless, crushing poverty to today, where it is now $9,000 per year. Okay? So this is a tremendous achievement of escape from poverty of the human race, is what you're looking at here. And it is driven directly by carbon use. Okay? It's directly proportional to carbon use. The standard of living of the world goes up, okay, and in an extraordinary way. Now, so this tells a giant story of billions and billions of people escaping from poverty. Okay, it also tells millions of individual stories of people moving from places where they were impoverished to places where they had opportunities to prosper. So, this is about people coming to America. Okay, from lands of no opportunity to lands of opportunity. So here we are in 1800, and the people have names like Smith and Andrews. And then we get into the 1850s, and they've got names like O'Brien and O'Donnell. Okay? And then we're in the 1870s, and here comes Hansen and Johansson. And here we are in the 1920s. And here comes Kowalski and Kaplan and Petrakis and Cafaro. Okay? And here we are in the 1950s and 60s. And they've got names like Rice and King and Robinson. And they're escaping from the land of Jim Crow to the land of opportunity. And then here we are today, and they've got names like Chang and Gupta and Gonzalez. And they're escaping to the land of opportunity. Okay? Now, This is a tremendous thing. Professor Cafaro says he's a progressive. I don't think he's a progressive at all. If you were a progressive, you would want to accelerate this. Okay? You'd want to have more progress. If you were a conservative, you would say, this is pretty good. Let's keep doing exactly what we're doing, steady as she goes. Only someone who was essentially anti-human would say, inhuman, would say, we have to roll this back. We have to push back. And some do. For instance, here is 1990, where the world's average GDP per capita is $5,000 a year. We almost doubled since 1990. The Kyoto Treaty people, Al Gore, say, we got to move things back to here. That's where we want to be. Okay? The people in Cafaro's book, okay, they want to cut the world population to 2 billion people. They want to move things back to 1920, right here. Okay? Way down there. Okay? That's what they want to do. Cafaro says repeatedly in his book, the last thing the world needs is more Americans. He says it repeatedly in numerous places in this book and elsewhere. I say the first thing the world needs is more Americans. And not just to benefit those individuals who have a chance to move from places where they do not have the opportunities of Americans to places where they can be Americans, but to benefit the entire world. Because, you know, you got to ask another question about this chart, which is who's responsible for this miracle? Who did this? Okay, well, the first bit down here in the corner, up to 1875, it's the British. They're the ones. There's other people who play a role. Americans play a role. We've got the steamboat, we've got the telegraph. Europeans contribute to chemistry. But by and large, the initial part of the Industrial Revolution, which raises the world average GDP per capita from $180 to $500, that's a British show. So, hail Britannia. It's a tremendous achievement. Okay, in just 75 years or so, they more than doubled the world's living standard, almost triple it. Okay, that's great. But then, who picks the ball up from there? It's the USA. With the development of oil drilling, and the light bulb, and centrally generated electrical power, and recorded sound, and motion pictures, and radio, and aeroplanes, and mass production industries, and the Green Revolution, not green as environmentalists, but as in scientific agriculture, and nuclear power, and computers, and transistors, and microelectronics, and all the rest of it. Okay, the United States is criticized. We're 4% of the world's population. It is said we use 25% of the world's resources. We're 4% of the world's population. For the past 100 years, we've been responsible for half of the world's inventions. Okay? So, the more people there are, and in particular the more free people there are, and the more of the freest people that there are, the faster the rate of human progress. And that is why the world needs more Americans. Now, this thing is so obviously good that one must ask the question, how could anyone come to oppose this? How could anyone come to make such an evil... And there's one other thing I want to say, by the way. Okay, I'm 61 years old. I'm born over here in 1952. My memories go back to about here, 57, Sputnik, beep, beep. Okay, I remember that. Okay, now, so, in that time, in the time of my living memory, the world's average GDP per capita has gone from $2,200 per year to $9,000 a year. It's quadrupled within my own living memory and the living memory of many people here. Now, there's a few people here that are younger than that, and you may wonder, at what cost to the world's climate was this miracle achieved? Well, yes, we quadrupled the world's living standard, but did this come at the cost of a climatic catastrophe? How much worse is the weather today than it was in 1957? Well, for those young people here who don't know what the weather was like in the 1950s, let me enlighten you. It was just about the same as the weather is today. Okay. So, okay.